The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good morning. I'm Nate Elms, filling in for Avia Boulay and Jenny Sung. Now, before we get to your top stories for 11:30 a.m., reporter Emma Bolsner joins us in studio to talk UBC women's hockey. Thanks for joining us, Emma.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, Emma, so how are the women's T-Birds hockey team making history?
Well, they're currently right now in a 12-game winning streak, which is really great for the team. Last season, they made Canada West history by having 25 games wins. And they have similar players from last season, so they're really on good track this year.
Awesome. Now, why should people support this university team? Why should people be excited?
Well, you know, the PWHL Golden Eyes, their first game is on Friday. A lot of women representation in sports is happening right now. It's a great time for women. And some of the players, including Cassidy Rhodes on the T-Birds, wants to be in the PWHL team one day. So she wants to be a pro athlete. So it's important to support these athletes now while they're still in university.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to following the T-Birds this season, and obviously best of luck to Cassidy and the team. So, Emma, thanks for joining us today.
Cheers. Thank you.
Now, if you're just tuning in now, that was reporter Emma Bolsner talking about the UBC T-Birds women's hockey team. On to local news. Every province and territory across Canada has agreed to a new trade deal, removing most interprovincial trade barriers. Reporter Arden McLeod spoke with BC's Parliamentary Secretary for Trade, Paul Choi, and has more.
Until now, businesses in BC had to meet different regulations in other provinces to move their products across the country. Under the new agreement, goods approved in one province can be sold in all others. The mutual recognition model removes layers of red tape, making growth easier for Canadian companies. Parliamentary Secretary Paul Choi says that Canadians could see more choice and more competitive prices. Choi adds that the agreement will help drive BC's economic growth, supporting jobs and expanding the reach of local businesses. Food and alcohol are not included in this initial agreement, but he says talks to bring them in will continue. Arden McLeod, BCIT News.
And several BC communities are set to improve transportation after receiving a $6.3 million investment from the federal government. The funding will support new multi-use paths, sidewalks, and even one bridge crossing. Abbotsford, Duncan, and North Cowichan will be the main recipients of the funding, with it also going towards improving infrastructure in other BC First Nations communities. Now, a recent survey of Canadians' perceptions around food affordability and purchasing behaviors suggests consumers have changed how they shop, cook, and eat in response to rising prices.
The latest Food Sentiment Index from Dalhousie University finds food is still the top financial concern for Canadians, more than utilities, housing, transportation, and entertainment. About 20% of respondents say they now spend more than $600 per month on food at home, up slightly from the last survey in the spring. A combined 46% spend between $300 and $600 a month. To keep a lid on their grocery bill, many consumers are seeking out sales and discounts, while others say they're using more coupons or going to cheaper stores. Michelle Zedekian, The Canadian Press.
Moving from provincial trade to the illegal drug trade, 7 Canadians have been charged in relation to former Team Canada snowboarder Ryan Wedding. Wedding is currently on the U.S.'s top 10 most wanted list for alleged murder, witness intimidation, and drug trafficking. The 7 Canadians have been arrested and will be extradited to the U.S. to face trial. Wedding remains at large, with the U.S. State Department raising their reward for information leading to his arrest to $15 million. In other news, NASA has finally released its photos of the interstellar object traversing our solar system. It is only the third ever object from outside our solar system, and its origins far predate our own. UCLA astronomy professor David Jewett had this to say on the subject.
This thing, we think, was ejected from another planetary system around another star. Again, we don't know where, but billions of years ago, probably long before the solar system and the sun existed.
Now looking at the weather, expect some light rain this afternoon in Greater Vancouver, with temps peaking at 9 and with a low of 5. Join me again at 1 p.m. Thanks for tuning in to BCIT's The Crow. I'm Nate Ellis.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow. This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
Hello, and welcome to From Digital to Disc.
How Gen Zs are reshaping their music listening habits for more than just an aesthetic.
I'm Emma Bolsner,
And I'm Gabby Rui.
and we are both BCIT students who also happen to be Gen Zers. We spent the last week looking at a trend that's happening with our generation and the way they are consuming music and changing the industry.
Gen Z are falling in love with the old style of listening through vinyl rather than streaming. It offers a chance for Gen Zs to have ownership over something.
And it's not just us saying this, there are statistics to back it up. According to the music industry's data tracker, Luminate, in 2024, Canadians bought more physical copies of music, up 4.8% from 2023. It also showed that 39% of the vinyl purchases happened at indie record stores. So what is Gen Z's infatuation and obsession, if you can call it that, with having a record rather than a digital copy?
We walked along Main Street in Vancouver in pursuit of finding the oldest independent record store in the city, Neptune Records, which was established back in 1981.
This was my first time in the store, and you walk into it. There are rows filled with shelves of records, some old, some new. You can find a new Sabrina Carpenter album and also Connie Francis in the same section. We talked to the co-owner Ben Firth, and we'll get into that conversation soon. But first, here are two customers we met. We asked them a few questions about why they're here at Neptune Records.
Steve Mosca comes once a month to Neptune.
I'm technically a millennial, I think, born in '89. And my dad, growing up, would occasionally put on a record. So, yeah, I've kind of been listening for my whole life.
We asked Steve why he prefers listening to vinyl records over streaming.
One is the physical kind of ownership of the media instead of just streaming it. So it feels like I've contributed a bit more directly. And then the other is, especially now that I have a kid, I get to experience the same thing that I had with my dad, which is like, you teaching her how to put the record on, how to use the record player.
We also spoke to Eduarda Sa.
And I have to open it, and I have to put it on the record and start listening to it. And I think this music comes out very differently. I think I pay more attention to when I'm listening to the vinyl than when I am listening to music on my own phone.
So Gabby, what do you think about both of Eduarda and Steve's thoughts when it comes to physical copies and listening actively to music?
First of all, I do agree with both of their opinions. I do think that when I listen to records, I feel like I'm more deeply connected to the artists and the songs, because it's like I can feel the atmosphere more. Like the sound of the music is much smoother compared to when I listen to it on Spotify, because it's like when you listen to the music on records, you can actually hear the production sound, the richness, and the high quality of it.
I never really thought about it that way when we met them and had those conversations. I really liked their thoughts and their approach to the way they listen to music. But for me, I'm a digital listener. I like having the convenience of taking my music with me when I'm out walking, when I'm on the bus, putting my headphones on, using Spotify, using YouTube. I just feel like I have more control of when I can listen to it, and record players really prevent you from taking the music with you. And yes, maybe it offers a different sound, but for me, I like having the music with me throughout my day, and I like having the convenience of it.
But also, personally, I think that record stores also bring the community together, because imagine, like, you're just looking for the latest album of your favorite artist. You enter a record store and you see other like-minded people who share your interests. So I think having that experience like once every few days or once a month is already a fulfilling experience, and it actually helps you feel better about your interests and yourself.
I'm starting to question whether I really am a Gen Zer after hearing your takes and others. But first, let's hear from the co-owner of Neptune Records, Ben Firth, about what he's seeing and the demographics he's seeing when people walk into his store.
Yeah.
And if you see a big group of Gen Z particularly coming to the store to buy vinyls and what that demographic looks like a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say it's actually a pretty large part of our customer base. I think the further we strayed from physical media, the more people have a craving for it. You start to really feel a lack of ownership, especially with so many people on Spotify pulling their catalogs. It's like, well, I don't get to listen to that artist anymore. So, I think people are starting to realize the only way you actually own something is if you own it. So, and also the gap in sound quality is such a huge difference.
So I feel like we've heard a lot about that today, about the ownership thing and how Gen Zs are feeling, this existential crisis about the job market, buying a home, buying groceries. Do you think that a part of owning some music, a physical copy, kind of has a bit of that control aspect to it?
I definitely think that it does, because in this current economy, I feel like there are a lot of things that Gen Zs really can't afford. But in terms of music, since a lot of Gen Zs are like really big music lovers, when they feel that they can actually afford a special record that they really appreciate, it makes them feel better, because it's like, hey, I could actually afford this, and I can call it mine, and I can appreciate it and listen to it anytime that I want, at home.
It is true. That's a really interesting point. And something else interesting that Ben brought up was we asked him if a part of it is a nostalgia component, and his response was quite interesting.
I think not as much, only because it was already gone in that generation. For them, it's not really going back to anything. It's going to something they've never had. So it's I would say it's more of a revival than a nostalgia, if that makes any sense.
It is true that Gen Zers didn't have parents listening to records that often. I mean, Steve is one of the few millennials who had a dad showing him that, and now he's bringing that tradition to his daughter, which is lovely. But it is kind of this far-removed obsession that Gen Zs are having. Another thing that Ben pointed out was the record store itself, Neptune Records, looks very different than it did 20 years ago, back in 2005, where instead of vinyls, CDs were filling the store.
I think the big difference is now is instead of people consuming their new music via CD, they're consuming it via vinyl. So, now we have half the store is like new pressing vinyl. So, that's a big part of it for sure.
So it is very interesting to see how quickly it's changed in the past 20 years and how vinyls have really taken over. We're gonna now play something on a record. Now we're going to play that same song digitally.
But we also had to bring up how AI is impacting the way Canadians, including Gen Z, are listening to music.
I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, Gabby, but when I'm on Spotify, the playlists suggested to me are eerily specific. I mean, I get Sunday evening jazz mix, daily mix, and even summer pink Pilates princess mix. Sometimes the songs are things I wouldn't have ever thought of listening to, and I like having that ability to discover new artists, but sometimes I come across songs that I've never heard of and artists I've never heard of, and to my discovery when I do a little deep dive and click their name, These artists, per se, don't even exist. They are, as Ben likes to call, ghost artists.
If it ends up being that Spotify doesn't have to pay musicians and royalties, that's what they're going to want to feed you. So, a lot of people won't know the difference. A lot of people will. I mean, just look at, silly like clickbait AI photos that you see online, and people will have, extreme reactions thinking that it's a real thing. It's like, you spend 3 seconds to look at it properly, but, the casual observer is not going to figure these things out.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's scary too, because I really value like real artists who really use their minds to create their own music, and just the thought of accidentally stumbling upon like a ghost artist on Spotify, it scares me because I don't want to be supporting these kinds of artists.
We had to learn more about this topic and dig deeper, so we met Philippe Pasquier, who is a professor at Simon Fraser University School of Interactive Arts and Technology. He directs the Meta Creation Lab for Creative AI and has been specializing in AI for a number of years.
And so there's a strong pedagogical potential of those systems to allow beginners to make contents that they would not be able to make otherwise. So that would be, I think, in terms of music making, the big change that I see with music, with AI technology. And there's really a variety of AI technology for a variety of tasks when it comes to music making. But in general, it has those two effects, which is to make professional a little bit more efficient and to lower the barrier of entry for beginners.
However, he doesn't think AI music will replace real musicians or listening experiences, but be more used as a tool.
I see AI as a tool to help musicians, but musicians stay at the center, because what's exciting to people is not so much the music itself in general, but the message around it, the character of the musicians, singers. In fact, if anything, the rise of synthetic media, I predict, will give value to human-made content. And so I see also a similar thing potentially happening with the rise of AI-generated content that is going to make human-made content accrue more value.
I don't think I really agree with Philippe's sentiments on how AI music is going to increase people's interest in human-made songs, because the thing is, when you're on Spotify and there's going to be more AI ghost artists on that platform, how are you going to differentiate AI music between real human-made music?
I feel the same way. I think AI is going to get better at making music that sounds pretty much like a real human musician creating that work, and that's what terrifies me. Maybe I feel more convinced to doing a mix of both, listening on Spotify, but also consuming physical copies of music.
Yeah, I think I really agree with you on that. I think I'd also be comfortable doing a mixture of both digital and traditional, partly because, like when I'm on the bus or when I'm on transit going to and from school, I mean, of course I'd want something filling my head. Of course I'd want to appreciate something beautiful. So I can't possibly achieve that with a record player on a bus, so I gotta listen to stuff on Spotify. I just gotta be more careful when it comes to like ghost artists and the algorithm.
Well, we both want to thank you for tuning in to our podcasts, Disc to Digital. I'm Emma Bolsner.
And I'm Gabby Rui.
And this was a production for BCIT's The Crow.